Hello and welcome back to Learn Linux TV. In today's video, we are going to check out ZeroTier. ZeroTier is a piece of software that you can install that allows you to network two computers, two servers, a computer and a server, or some sort of combination of network-controlled devices together, regardless of their physical location or the network they reside on. It's an awesome piece of software and I can't wait to check it out. And I've been wanting to check out ZeroTier for a while now. And it was actually my friend Tom Lawrence who originally recommended that I check it out, but I was way too busy to actually give it a shot, writing books and things like that. But now that the book is done, Mastering Ubuntu Server 3rd edition, it's out right now, I finally had a chance to sit down and check out ZeroTier, and I've decided to make a video about it, and well, here it is. So what exactly is ZeroTier? Well, I just mentioned that it allows you to network devices together as if they were on the same network, even though they may not be on the same network or even in the same geographic area. But how exactly does ZeroTier work? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be exploring in this video. But essentially, ZeroTier is a very easy and effective method of networking computers together. And it's able to abstract the physical location of those computers or devices because it creates its own encrypted peer-to-peer network, and it essentially creates virtual network interfaces on each node that allows them to communicate with each other. Now, each node will need the ZeroTier client installed, and they have to be added to the same ZeroTier account. Once they're set up, the nodes will have virtual interfaces that they can use in order to communicate with each other directly. Essentially, ZeroTier is how I pictured in my head that networking functioned like when I was thinking about the networking industry when I was first starting out, when I was a complete noob. I just assumed that each computer would have a client and then they would connect to each other. But then when I started actually studying networking quite a while back, I realized, well, that's not really how networking works. Now, this isn't going to be a deep, detailed dive into ZeroTier or even TCP/IP networking, but ZeroTier actually does seem to give us that layer of networking simplicity that I feel like we've been missing the entire time that I've been studying the IT industry. ZeroTier's web interface allows you to create networks right in your browser, and then you can subscribe your nodes to that network and create your own software-defined network. And going into this, I felt like this could have some awesome real potential. I mean, just think about it. You can use it for your organization to network servers together that are split between different geographic areas. Or you can even use it to share your Minecraft server with a friend for some socially distant gaming fun. Now, to be clear, I want to mention that this is not a sponsored video. Well, actually it is, but ZeroTier is not the sponsor of today's video. In fact, they don't even know that I'm doing this video, and I'm not even sure that they even know that my YouTube channel exists in the first place, but I guess as soon as I put this video out, well, they'll find out then. But actually, I decided to check out ZeroTier simply because I wanted to check it out. It seems like a very interesting concept, and as always, when I check out something new, I like to create a video about it so I can show you guys. But I do want to mention the actual sponsor for today's video, Linode. Linode has been doing cloud computing since 2003, which is actually before Amazon Web Services was even a thing. On Linode's platform, you can get your server up and running in minutes, and they include all of the popular distributions such as CentOS, Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora, and get this, also Arch Linux. And let's be honest, what could be better than a Linux cloud server provider that allows you to tell all of your friends, I run Arch? Linode has multiple server plans available to make any app scalable and flexible. You can use it to host a blog, set up a VPN server, a Minecraft server, or you could do what I did and set up a website for your YouTube channel, because the official website for Learn Linux TV runs on Linode. And Linode offers 24/7 365 support regardless of plan size, so you can get live help from a real person when you need it. New users can get started right now with $100 in credit towards a new account, and I highly recommend you check them out because Linode is awesome. So thank you so much to Linode for being a continued sponsor and supporter of Learn Linux TV. I really appreciate it. And now, let's go ahead and dive into the topic and check out ZeroTier. So here I am on the ZeroTier website. And full disclosure, you will need to create an account in order to use this service. So if you don't already have an account, you'll need to set one up. And thankfully, that process is fairly straightforward. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a new account right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill out the information here. And I'll type in my email address, password, and again, and I'll register. And like you'd suspect, we will need to verify our email in order to use our service. So I'll go ahead and do that real quick. And that is done. So I will go back to the ZeroTier website. I confirmed that on a different computer. And I'll go ahead and log in. So now that I'm logged into the ZeroTier dashboard, I can go ahead and create my new awesome network. And this Create a Network button here is animated, it's wobbling, it really wants me to click on it, so I guess I may as well. And actually, that was it. I just created a network. Seriously, I have a network ID right here. And then I also have a network name that was randomly generated. So what I could do is click on the network ID to configure this network. And let's go ahead and scroll through and see what we need to do here. So what I'm going to do is just change the name. I'll change it to LLTV_net. And for the description, I'll just put something simple in there. And I'll scroll down here, increase the font size just a touch. I think that should be good enough. Now I'm going to leave this as a private network. I don't want any node to be able to join my network unless I authorize it to be able to do so. And this is really important. It's the default, but I recommend that you leave it on private unless you have a very specific reason to make it publicly available. So next, we can go ahead and choose an IP range for our network, and we have a bunch of choices right here that we could choose from. Now, it really doesn't matter which one you choose, but you'll notice that each range has 1 or 2 asterisks that'll basically determine how many hosts you can have on that network. If you are only connecting a handful of devices or any number fewer than 254 or so, then you can go with a network with a single asterisk. It really doesn't matter though, so I'll choose this one right here. So I chose that one. And you also want to leave this box checked right here to auto assign an IP from the range. That's important. We're going to leave that checked. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and leave all the options at their default. And here we can see that we have no devices on our network at this time. And that makes sense because, well, I haven't added any. So what I'm going to do is take care of that right now. So here on my Linode dashboard, I've set up this Debian 10 instance right here. And this is going to be one of the instances that I'm going to use for the purposes of this walkthrough. Now, you don't actually need to be running on Linode for this to work. It doesn't actually matter. But since I have the account and I was already logged in, I figured why not create a quick instance and use that for the example. So up here on my terminal, let's go ahead and get connected. So I'll SSH into that server. And there I go, I am logged in. And for those of you that are curious, here's the distribution release information. As I mentioned, this is a Linode that is running Debian 10. And let's also take a look at the network interfaces as well to see which interfaces we have on this particular server. And as you can see here, other than the loopback adapter, which I'm not going to count, we only have one network interface, which is ETH0. Just keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and get ZeroTier installed. So I'm going to run curl-s and then install.zerotier.com, and I'm going to pipe that into sudo bash. Now, it probably goes without saying, or at least I hope it goes without saying, but anytime you plan to run a script that you've downloaded from the internet, it's very important that you check it first. Now, I have run through the installation process several times for the creation of this content, and I have no reason to assume that there's any problems with this script in the first place, but checking scripts before you run them on your servers is a very good practice to get into. But anyway, I'll go ahead and press enter. Let's get this installed. And we have a bit of an error here, don't we? It's telling us that the public key is not able to be verified. Thankfully, I already know how to solve this particular issue. To be fair though, I don't really think that I should be in a position to fix anything because I thought that was the whole purpose of a script, to basically take care of everything for me. But anyway, what I'm going to do is run apt install GNU PG as well as apt transport HTTPS. And that's going to require a few dependencies here, no problem. Let's go ahead and get those installed. So let's go ahead and give this script another spin and see if we get further. And that certainly looks a lot better to me. And now that that's installed, we can go ahead and get it registered and connected to our network. So what I'll do is run ZeroTier CLI with the option to join. And then I need to give it the ID of the network that I want to join. And what is that ID? Well, let's go ahead and fetch it from the dashboard. And here it is right here. So I'm going to copy this ID. Then back at the terminal, I'll paste that in, just like that. And it tells me 200 join OK. So let's take a look at the network interfaces again. And we now see this new network interface right here, interface number 3, which was not present when we checked originally, but it doesn't actually have an IP address. So even though we have this new interface on our server, it's completely useless. And why don't we have an IP address? Well, the reason is because this is a private network. We don't want just any node to be able to join our network. We want to make sure that every node that's joining this network is authorized to do so. So if I scroll down, we can see that we do actually have this node right here checking in. It's online. So let's go ahead and get this particular node authorized, and all I should need to do is simply check this box. And back at the terminal, let's check the interfaces one more time. And would you look at that? We now have an IP address on this interface right here, and that's awesome. So that means that this server is now a part of our network. But it's kind of hard to call it a network right now because we only have one node. We should add at least one more so we actually have something to send traffic to. So what I'm going to do is open a new tab here. So here on my laptop, I'll do the same thing. I'm going to run that same command to install the agent. And I will pipe that to sudo bash, just like before. And I'll let it run. And there we go. The ZeroTier software is now installed on my local laptop. And because I'm lazy, I'm just going to go over here. I'm going to copy the join command. And I'm going to paste that into this tab right here. I'll use sudo because I will need root privileges. On my Linode server, I'm already logged in as root, so I could do whatever the heck I want. But here on my laptop, I'm not running as root, so I'll need to use sudo. But it should be pretty straightforward. Let's see if it works. It tells me 200 join OK. And as you can see here, we have a new network interface. And then we already have the node listed right here, so I'm going to check the box. And now that should get it connected. Let's see. And there you go. We have an IP address. Now what I'm going to do is open yet another tab, because this is going to be a very fun experiment to see how ZeroTier contends with this. And what I'm going to do right here is connect to yet another server. I'll paste in the IP address. This is going to be fun. And what's so special about this server, you might ask? Well, it is running Alma Linux, which is a brand new distribution. And Alma Linux is a community respin of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, much in the same way that CentOS is also a respin of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Now, I've already gone ahead and installed the ZeroTier software on this server already. I just wanted to make sure that it was even going to install in the first place, and surprisingly, it did. I was actually expecting it to complain that it's running Alma Linux, and a lot of these multi-distribution solutions will often throw up their hands if they encounter a distribution that isn't on some arbitrary list. But actually, the installation of the software worked just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the join command, just like before. I'll paste it in here. And again, I get 200 join OK. And it doesn't show up yet, so I will refresh this page. Let's see what happens. And there it is. I'm not really sure why I had to refresh the page manually. Maybe it checks every certain number of seconds or something like that. I don't really know, but I'm going to check the box. And there we go. Let's see if it's connected. And there you go. Now, all three of these instances, my local laptop, my Debian server, and my Alma Linux server, they all have an IP address that's on the ZeroTier network that I've created. So what that means is that they should be able to talk to each other. So to prove that, I'll create a test file. So I'm just creating this test file right here. So as you can see, I put some words in there and we have that test file. So what I should be able to do is grab an IP address from another node in the network. So I will grab this one. And as you can see here, we don't have any files there, so I'm going to go here and we will SCP that file right over to that server. Simple enough. Let's see what happens. And it claims that it copied the file. Let's go ahead and check. And there it is. We can see that it is in fact the same file. So I was able to transfer a file from one server to another via that dedicated network. Now, to be fair, the Alma Linux server is publicly available. It's on Linode. And the same is true here for this Debian server that's on the screen right now. And since both servers are publicly available, well, to be honest, I could have transferred that file directly to the server with or without ZeroTier, but it did prove that it works. However, my laptop is not publicly available. So I'll click on this tab here in the middle, and that is for my local laptop. And I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm creating yet another test file. And there it is. I'll grab the IP address. And my local laptop is actually behind a firewall, so if it wasn't for ZeroTier, this should actually be kind of impossible. Let's see what happens. I'll go back over here to my Debian server. I'll go ahead and use SEP to see if I can grab that file from my laptop. The username on my laptop is mine. I'll paste in the IP address. And the file name was test2.txt. I'll store that locally here. Let's see what happens. And would you look at that? I was able to grab that file directly from my laptop, even though my laptop is behind a firewall, and connect to it just as if it was on the same local area network. And there's the same verbiage that I entered into that file on the laptop, so we know that it is in fact the same computer. And I'll even do one better. So I'll SSH into that computer again. And I'll cat out the distribution release info to show you that it is in fact that computer. And as you can see, it's running Pop! OS. That is my laptop, the very same laptop that I'm recording this footage on. And I was able to grab a file from that computer through the internet and store it locally on this server, again, as if it was on the same local network. And that's the main benefit of ZeroTier, because with ZeroTier, you can have multiple computers connected, even though they may or may not be in the same geographic area. And another thing that I also like about ZeroTier is right here. We have the ability to actually email join instructions to another individual, which is going to allow that person to join our network. We can authorize their computer, and then they'll be connected. So, as you can see, ZeroTier is awesome and it's easy to set up. One of the things that I love most about it is the fact that networking computers together when they are not in the same geographic area seemed like a very hard thing to do when I first started in IT, and that's probably because it was a hard thing to do. When I first started, the company that I worked for had a T1 line, and they actually had a T1 line connected to, I think, 12 different locations in the United States. It was very expensive to set up, but here we have ZeroTier, and I was effectively able to do that same kind of thing for free. And just think about all the possibilities for a moment that ZeroTier can unlock. And that's especially true now because we're currently in a pandemic and more people are working from home now than ever before. So having something like ZeroTier is especially valuable because you can actually network your computers with your company's servers or your coworkers, and the process is very easy. And it allows you to abstract the setup of a wide area network down to installing just a client on every node. So I think that ZeroTier is a win so far. Now, the elephant in the room, though, is the fact that you need to create a central account in order to use ZeroTier. And the argument could be made that it would be a lot better if you could download some sort of software and run that centrally and effectively set up your very own ZeroTier service. But you have to trust ZeroTier in order to trust the service in general, because you do need to have that central account. Now, ZeroTier has information on their website about security. They claim to take security very seriously. But then again, I bet all the companies out there that have ever been hacked have all made the claim that they take security very seriously. So do they? And is their security solid and sound? Well, to be honest, I don't know, because only time will tell, and I'm not actually working closely with the engineers to know exactly how it's designed, but you can actually go to their website, check out their information, and make the decision yourself as far as whether or not you should trust ZeroTier for your private data. So far, though, I think it's a very awesome idea. The ability to network computers together regardless of their geographic location feels like a superpower. And I'm excited to check out ZeroTier in more detail as time goes on. And I'm curious to see how it's going to fit in my network. And I think it's going to be a great fit so far, but again, only time will tell. So what is your opinion about ZeroTier? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.